Hi and welcome to another video update from the Fire Brigades Union, here at the Union's head office in Kingston, London. We're joined by FBU National Officer Riccardo Lattori to discuss an ongoing safety campaign that the Union is running regarding firefighters wearing breathing apparatus. Now Riccardo, this campaign is based around a proposal that started in London Fire Brigade. It's a proposal for firefighters to move beyond what we call the BA entry control point, either whilst not wearing or not using the breathing apparatus set. Now for operational firefighters, we all know why that's so dangerous. But for a member of the public that might be watching this, can you explain first of all actually what this means and why it's so dangerous for firefighters?
Some chief fire officers are attempting to remove the breathing apparatus and the breathing masks from firefighters when we go into high-rise building fires in a flawed attempt to address the building safety crisis, which we now know exists. And we say flawed because it simply does not address that crisis. And the reason removing breathing apparatus is so dangerous, put simply, is because breathing apparatus keeps firefighters alive, and it has kept firefighters alive for decades. Now these safety measures weren't made up, they weren't pulled out of thin air, they were born from the death and the injury of firefighters. Removing it now in one of the most dangerous situations a firefighter can go into is perverse.
Absolutely, so this is really about the life and death of firefighters, it's that important. Now as I said, it started off in London Fire Brigades, it went to an independent panel, but the panel ruled against this proposal. They said it wasn't safe, so it didn't proceed in London Fire Brigade. But it started to come up in other services, hasn't it? Can you tell us what other services are proposing this procedure and what the union's doing about it?
So you're absolutely right. Following that independent expert panel, that element of the procedure was removed from the London Fire Brigade policy following the FBU's challenge at that panel. We are now seeing chiefs elsewhere, Hampshire and Isle of Wight, Greater Manchester come to mind, where they are now publishing this in their own policy. Now they're trying to use language to get away with this and saying it's not the same procedure that was ruled against in London. And we have to be clear here, Tam, we've taken the highest level of legal advice, the highest level of expert advice. There is no material difference between what brigades such as Hampshire or Manchester are trying to do. They are putting firefighters into one of the most dangerous situations they can go in and removing their breathing apparatus, taking away a control measure which has existed for years, a control measure we know we can achieve, and therefore lowering the safety of firefighters to a level lower than that which we know is achievable.
It is quite shocking to hear this. Now we should stress this is just a small minority of fire and rescue services at this point that are trying to introduce this, despite it getting ruled against in London. So the key question is, okay, it's not safe, what's the union going to do to protect our members facing this procedure? Rightly
so, a large number of chiefs aren't touching this. They can clearly see how unsafe and how unprofessional it is. And we need to be clear what chiefs who proceed with this are doing. They are placing their firefighters beyond the point of rescue as well, by putting them in beyond the reach of a BA set. But like you say, there is a minority of brigades where they are pushing through with this. Now we are challenging that locally and we challenge it nationally, and I say nationally because this exists in National Fire Chiefs Council guidance as well. We can't forget that, and that's what a couple of these chiefs are trying to hide behind. But rest assured, where they do, we will challenge it with every lever we have, industrially, politically and legally. We are currently consulting with the highest level of legal advice in how we now pursue a challenge to this in all arenas.
Okay, so we're considering legal action at a national level, but you also said that it's getting challenged locally. What does that look like? What are members saying about this in these services?
What's clear on this is it is being rejected by the professionals, the practitioners in the fire and rescue service, firefighters. Firefighters see how unsafe this is and they see how unprofessional it is. So much so we are having motions, resolutions passed at fire stations across the United Kingdom rejecting this unsafe and unprofessional proposal, particularly in the brigades where we're seeing it being pursued harder and faster by chief fire officers. Hampshire, for example, have held meetings on every fire station. They've held bigger meetings to resoundingly reject these unsafe proposals, and they will continue to challenge them.
Thanks very much, Riccardo Lattori. We're now joined by FBU General Secretary Matt Rack to discuss this. Now Matt, I mean, it was actually almost 3 years ago exactly to the day that the union was celebrating the centenary of the FBU, 100 years. And that was a time when we reflected and learning the lessons of the past. Here we are now, hearing from Ricardo these proposals getting put forward, based on firefighters who've previously died. I mean, you must be appalled by this, aren't you?
I think it is utterly disgraceful, Tam, what's happening. I personally, as you know, I lost 2 colleagues 30 years ago at the Gillinder Street fire. Have dealt with a number of fatalities, inquests and inquiries since then. And what you learn when you look at any of these is that our improvements in safety have come about precisely because of the death or injury of firefighters or the death or injury of members of the public. And specifically the BA entry control procedures developed over decades after precisely such incidents, notably the Smithfield fire. I find it staggering that today's generation of chief officers, or some of them, are forgetting the entire lessons of the history of our profession and the history of our service. It's utterly disgraceful and it needs to be challenged, and I commend those members who are doing that on the ground across the country.
Now, we talked about the members taking action. Ricardo also talked about the National Union taking action. If you could send a message to the chief fire officers that are proposing this, because it is them proposing this, what would that be?
Well, 2 messages. I'd like to send one to the members first of all. I think I commend and praise those members who are standing up for themselves, standing up for professionalism and for safety. And to chief officers, I say this: I think you are acting recklessly. You are likely to endanger the lives of firefighters and indeed of the public, because dead or injured firefighters cannot put out fires, cannot rescue people, and they are a hazard to their colleagues as well. So we're standing up for professionalism as well as the safety of our members. They should withdraw these proposals, or we will take every action that we need to do, legally, politically, and whatever else needs to be done to defeat this dangerous practice that they're trying to introduce.
So they've got a fight in their hands?
They've got a fight on their hands, undoubtedly. We've got no choice. I don't think we can retreat on this. We know we're right. We know we've got the professional arguments. We know we've got the legal arguments, and we will see this through to the end.
Matt, thanks very much indeed. So some very strong words there, and rightly so, from FBU General Secretary Matt Rack. Now, for more information on this campaign, and indeed all the campaigns that the union is running, you can go to our website, and that's www.fbu.org.uk. Or for more immediate updates, why not follow us on Twitter, and that's @FBU National. Until the next time, thanks for joining us, and Matt, thanks so much indeed.
Thanks, Tam. Thanks, everyone.